evening, everyone, and welcome along to another VCO Esports Studio with myself, Ben Constanduros, combining the world of virtual and real every single week. Plenty of action on the VCO YouTube and social channels with the VCO ProSIM series coming up on Wednesday. And therefore, we've got one of our stars from the VCO ProSIM series so far. Raoul Hyman has joined us, a real-world racer, Raoul, but with a very, very nifty talent behind the wheel of the virtual world. Firstly, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem at all. Yeah, it's great to be here. VCO has been pretty awesome up until now. It's the first sort of series that I've done in terms of esports. It's usually, it's usually just the official races. I did, when I'd first gotten the sim, just as lockdown started in, I think it was March of 2020. I did a couple of races there with the Ultimate Sim driver and all this kind of thing, but I was still sort of getting used to everything, you know, with having a home sim, trying to work out the settings on the steering wheel. So I mean, now, you know, having done it for a little while, to be able to join you guys in this series was it's pretty awesome, and with the names that we have competing, it's been a lot of fun.
So, Raoul, you've been competing in Formula 4, Formula 3 in various different regions and internationally. But your esports career, if you like, is literally less than a year old.
Well, yes, I mean, it's all been pretty new. I've been wanting to get a sim at home for, years now. It's been, it took quite a while. So I was lucky in the sense that I'd ordered it just before they announced the lockdown stuff. So, you know, everybody
Nice.
still had stock and so on. So, I mean, thank God for that, because otherwise, I'd be sat at home watching everybody else doing the racing and kind of feeling left out. But that worked out really well. And yeah, I mean, I've had iRacing now. I had it previously because, I just got it when I had like an old Logitech and terrible internet connection in like 2012 or something. And I created a new profile and I started everything up properly. I think, as I said it previously, I think it was about March or April. And since then, trying to work out why all the esports aliens are so much faster than me, and still haven't worked it out. I think they've got some weird touch on the brake or something. But I mean, we're getting closer. And the really cool thing with the championship here is that all the drivers are paired up with one of these sort of sim aliens that everybody calls them. And I've been able to learn from my teammate Felix, which has been really helpful as well.
So how have you approached this then? Coming from a real world background of many years karting into Formula cars, what was your kind of inspiration for getting a sim, especially pre-lockdown? I mean, a lot of people did it like I did as lockdown came around because I needed something to do. But how have you approached the learning process of sim racing?
Well, I mean, actually, it's similar to what we would do in the real world. You know, I mean, I wanted a simming. To answer the first question, was I'd wanted it for some time, just because I have a few friends that have been on iRacing for years now, and they've all been saying that it's awesome, and also to just be able to prepare for the race weekends. You know, regardless of whether it's a simulator or a go-kart, rental kart, whatever. I mean, driving is driving. You know. So, you still have qualifying, you still have races, you still have testing. The one, thing in iRacing as well, maybe not in our series because it's fixed setup, you also have setup to deal with. So it's all the same stuff, So in the sense of preparation, all of it has been on the driving side for the VCO series because it is fixed setup. So in that regard, it's just laps on laps on laps. I practice in particular a lot of qualifying sims. So I find actually whenever I have to qualify the car, because we alternate, it's a lot easier to practice because I just go out and I do 5 laps. Whereas if I'm taking the car of Felix in the middle of the race, I now have to practice doing the low sort of the lower fuel run or the second half of the race, which means I have to do double the laps and get used to the second half of when the car is when the tires are warm and the car is sort of lower on fuel. So yeah, I mean it's easier like that. But I mean for Suzuka, for instance, I must have done, over 50 quali sims, in the 2 days before, and everybody else was just going lap on lap on lap, continually just driving, and I would just box, go out, do another quali sim, then box, then go out and do another quali sim. It got a bit too repetitive, but I mean it all worked out in the end, so it's fun in that regard.
And do you think that approach to testing, to practice, is because you've come from that real world background where whenever you walk through the gates of a racetrack, you've got a program that you have to follow and there are reasons for everything? Whereas obviously for a lot of sim drivers, me included, just getting on and doing lap after lap is kind of enough for us. You obviously do it with a process.
Yeah, I mean, I found what I wanted to do. I mean, every time I'll do a race, or even if it's just like a normal race, official race on iRacing, I always want to sort of come out of it not having wasted it in a sense, So like if in the qualifying I would have tried to maximize, in the race I want to be able to finish the race sort of having maybe learnt like just a little bit, even if I just watch the replay of the start, or watch what the other guys are doing in terms of their lines and that kind of thing, trying to work out where they're quicker and slower. Because otherwise, it kind of starts being a game, and you get sucked into the whole. It's just a game. Don't really take it that seriously. Whereas if you're doing data and you're putting the extra effort in, if you're watching the onboard and kind of giving yourself, even if it's just like a 5-minute debrief, then for me, it becomes a lot more real. You're putting a bit more effort in, and then you just want to do better automatically because you've spent a bit more time on it. So yeah, I mean, I guess that comes from the real life sort of application to bring it back into sim racing. And I think as soon as I started sort of taking that approach, I started to improve and get closer to. Well, I mean, okay, I'm not at the level of the sim guys. Let's not lie there. But at least I'm a little bit closer now. So yeah, that's nice to see.
Now, 2020 to me looked as though it was the first year in many years where you didn't jump in and compete in the real world. So obviously that probably was quite hard for you, but did you feel as though iRacing kind of filled that hole a little bit for you?
Yeah, my career was iRacing only, but no, I mean, yeah, as you say, it was one of the first years where, I mean, actually, it was the only year since I started racing in 2008, I think it was, that I didn't drive anything. I think I did 3 or 4 karting days at PFI, which was fun. But yeah, I haven't been in a race car since 2019 in December. My plan for the year was actually to race in Super Formula Lights in Japan, and everything was set. But then the pandemic kicked in, and unfortunately, I was unable to travel into the country. So that was a bit disappointing. And by the time the Super Formula Light season had started, and we realized that I wasn't going to be able to travel. All the other championships had already started. So that was, it's unfortunate because you don't want to now join a championship that you can't necessarily win. So it would have just been a waste of sort of funding on our sides. So yeah, I mean, as you say, I think iRacing kind of saved me a little bit and kept me attached to the racing world. I'd say I did more laps in the year than I've ever done before. More locations, everything. It's just that it was all virtual. But hopefully this year we're going to change that a bit and have some real world laps. But until then, we'll just keep on it with the iRacing. And for me, I keep saying that it would be really interesting to see that when I get back into the car, if there's been an improvement or something like that, because you're still qualifying. Like, I mean, I'll do 3 or 4 qualifyings a day. I do 3 or 4 races a day, and every lap I'm doing, okay, not every lap, but every lap I'm trying at least to make it count, and improve concentration levels, all these kinds of things. So in that sense, because I've not been racing, I've been taking the sim racing a lot more seriously. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see when I get back in the real car at least.
It does seem as though there's 2 trains of thought with this. I know that quite a few people who were interviewed around the virtual 24 hours, real world drivers, said that actually they were distracted by their sim racing experience because they brought in bad habits, whereas others have said it has helped them understand certain things and certainly from a learning perspective. Have you got have your eyes been open to certain tracks and certain cars that you would never have had the chance in real life to necessarily compete in, but were aware of things that you have been playing around in iRacing?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I haven't like a lot of the tracks in the US. I mean, I've driven one track there, which is the Indianapolis road circuit.
Yep.
I'm not sure what they call it there. Just like the one the F1 used to be on. But now I'm
Yeah.
doing Road America, Watkins Glen, Barber, all these different tracks, and even in Europe, like what's a track that I haven't done? Okay, nothing off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, even the one other track that I really enjoy is Detroit, Belle Isle, the street track, and Long Beach
Okay.
as well. So I mean, there's a lot. I mean, mainly in the US, it's a lot of the tracks that I haven't done there before. But in terms of cars, definitely. I mean, I haven't. I think I've driven on a circuit two closed wheel cars, which is, I think it was a Carrera Cup and a McLaren GT4. So now to do the GT3 stuff is really cool as well. I think in the fun races we had the super late model that I did, first
That was
oval
weird.
race as well with the Indy Pro, which was really fun. So it's
Nice. Yeah.
definitely a lot more, I'd say a lot more variety than I've ever been exposed to in real life. And I mean, even now, because we have the software to do like dirt oval races and rallycross, I'm quite
Yeah.
keen to
Right.
get in that, just because it's there. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. But as I say, I haven't been exposed to that kind of thing in the real world as yet, at least. So I mean, who knows? Maybe it's going to help one day to be able to sort of be familiar with those cars. Even if it is just from online racing.
Does it make you go, oh, actually, an Indy Lights around Detroit would be kind of fun to do in real world? Let's go and contact a few teams and see if we can get a seat in America next year. Has iRacing kind of got you to that point yet?
Uh, I mean, yes and no. I think with the GT stuff, yes. I mean, because I mean, you realize that the racing is really good. I mean, you've got also the team events where you're racing with a few different teammates. You've got 24-hour races. I mean, I haven't done one yet, but it looks like a lot of fun. And it's a different vibe, in terms of where you're working with other drivers rather than just constantly trying to beat them. So in that regard, it's opened my eyes up a bit. And also with the endurance racing, you realize just how close it is. Like you'll get to the end of a 24-hour race and you've got guys, within 2 or 3 seconds fighting for the lead. And, we saw the same thing with the Daytona 24-hour in real life as well. And I hadn't really watched much endurance racing before. I thought it was quite interesting actually when I looked up the stream for the real life Daytona 24, and I could only find
Yeah.
iRacing streams. So they're looking at the virtual race, but I mean, I wouldn't have actually. I mean, to be very honest, I wouldn't really have sort of made a point to go and watch it unless I'd sort of tried out a little bit in terms of the online stuff. So once, I mean, I guess you could
Yeah.
say that once I've tried it, I was a lot more interested in even the real world championships, the equivalents.
Mm. So looking back on the VCO ProSim series then that we've done so far, you had the chance to drive that weird super late thing, which looked horrific to drive, to be honest. And then your first oval race. Talk about those two very different experiences for you.
Um, well, the super late model was terrible. I mean, personally, like for
Yeah,
me,
right.
I was terrible in that car. I mean, it got to the point where I had Felix on the radio because he was doing the F3 stuff and still practicing and so on. And there's me sitting there. I'm like, guys, I'm going to try and get to 21st because at least at 21st, I'm not going to be below average. I'll just be bang average and I'll be like middle point of the grid kind of thing, Whereas in the F3, at least I'm sort of, at least, most of the time sort of towards the front. So that was completely different. And you could see some guys either who had done a lot of GT stuff on the iRacing, or on iRacing rather, or maybe had practiced with those cars a bit more that were just straight on the pace right at the top. I think it was Lauren Heinrich who was really good
Yeah.
on that. But the oval stuff, I mean, that was really cool. I think I really, really enjoyed that. After that, I've started doing some oval races on iRacing just because it was so much fun. I didn't realize, how much fun it would be. You're sort of bump drafting guys around, and everyone's like within sort of centimeters. Trying to be aware of the net code, but also trying to be really close to each other. That was really, really cool. So definitely, I think the variety on iRacing is great. And having done it now with the VCO series, because you're doing it with all sort of other real world drivers, I think that just makes it sort of extra fun to be part of it. So yeah, I think it's been really, really cool to be able to be a part of the series.
Yeah, getting through your rookies in iRacing on ovals is tough work with all the people who just going out there to do stock car racing rather than actual oval racing. And then this week, though, Daytona 500, official one of the special events. So that's my target for this week, is to get my license to be able to participate and then do a 500. I think that'd be quite cool.
What do you need?
Why
do you
not?
need a D license then?
You need a D license, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I might do the same then. I'll try and join you, because I haven't gotten past the rookie license yet either. So I think I might be one of the guys to go out and do stock car racing. But I mean, we'll just keep going.
I think I saw you in a Formula 3 race in Phillip Island last week when I was trying to get my license for the Daytona 24 Hours. Pretty sure you were in an F3 just before the last VCO race. There was some F3 stuff. Maybe not.
No, I haven't done Phillip Island yet. But I mean, now the other thing.
Good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're doing a lot of different tracks. I mean, last round was a choice between Snederton and the Charlotte Roval. If we did the Roval, I think that would have been game over for me. As in, like, I was doing the practice and it was a complete disaster. It was like just bounce off all the walls, see how long.
It's so hard.
I was trying to do quali sims there as well. I couldn't finish one. I just kept hitting everything. So I mean, thank God we didn't do Charlotte. But yeah, I mean, Phillip Island, haven't done any laps yet. But I think some tracks that's going to be coming out in the series. Yeah, it's going to be a completely new experience. So that's going to be cool.
Talking about Snederton, actually, did you think that you had an advantage because we were racing a track that you've done plenty of laps around and you know pretty well? We spoke to Romain Grosjean on the broadcast. He'd never raced at Snederton.
Really? That's insane. I would have thought everyone came, especially at that time, because British F3 was so big. When Romain was coming up and so on, you would have thought that he would have raced there. But I mean, for me, I've done, I think in the UK, I think I've probably done the most laps at Snederton in comparison to any other track. I mean, I had my first, my first F3 test was at Snederton. I only drove F3 there once. But the thing with iRacing is what's good is that they keep changing the car model and the tire model. So actually, in terms of what I knew from the track in real life, was I mean, it wasn't really applicable to drive it on the sim, because I mean, to give you a reference, we were lifting, or I'm not sure if we were braking now that I remember, for the iRacing iRacing version, let's say, on Snederton, but in real life that was flat out the first corner. So I mean, an easy flat as well. So I mean, it was definitely something to adjust to. But I mean, I guess to know where everything goes and to know the approach, I mean, it's definitely helpful. I remember I did a test session with Felix and a couple other guys just before the race, and I remember I was going through the corner onto the back straight. I think it's Murray's or something like that. I'm not too sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but the one before
the
fast chicane. And I said on the radio, I was like, guys, I've done I don't know how many laps at this track, and every time I used to look at that corner after the session and think, I've never gotten it right. And on the sim, it was the exact same. It was the weirdest thing. I don't know if I always overshoot the entry or don't carry enough minimum speed or something. It's one of those just fine balanced corners where you're like on a knife edge in terms of entry speed, minimum, and exit. Where if you get it right, it's perfect. But if you get it slightly wrong, you've lost a tenth. And it was the same in iRacing. So I guess what's really cool is that you do have that application. So yeah, I mean, in conclusion, I think it probably did help to have known the track before.
So effectively what you're saying is the tracks, which are laser scanned, so they should be pretty similar to whenever they were laser scanned, whether it's 10 years ago or last week, are similar, but the model of the F3 car is a bit different to how you've experienced it before.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, I think they've obviously done it on purpose because, I mean, it changes every season that they do on it. So iRacing, obviously, you've got the 12 weeks. And then they change the cars and the tracks, and they have week 13 where everything gets crazy. But yeah, I mean, in comparison to, I'd say, last season, they've changed the tire model, or I mean, they increased the minimum pressures. They made the front, I think, a bit stiffer or something like that. I'm not too sure, but they do it so that they do it so that the same setups are not always necessarily going to work between seasons. So I think in that regard, it's good. And in the end, I mean, if you're going to prepare for a real world race, you wouldn't necessarily always do it on iRacing, because they're changing it so that the online racing stays competitive, whereas it's not going to be always completely realistic to real life. So sometimes you'd use R Factor, or you know, if you go to a team and the team has their own simulator, they would probably be on R Factor instead of iRacing.
Yeah.
So in that regard, you're not going to use it to prepare, because it's not going to be one-to-one. But the trends, you know, as I said, like that corner at Snederton and even a couple of the other ones, the trends are the same. So, you know, that's, you know, in that regard, it does help.
Chatted a lot about iRacing. As a relative newbie to the world of virtual racing, have you tried any other platforms? Have you, I suppose you have experience with R Factor because of sim work with teams, but what about Assetto Corsa Competizione, for instance?
I mean, I haven't touched the Assetto Corsa yet. I haven't even gotten it downloaded, to be honest. But it looks like they're doing some really good series on there as well. So I'm keen to get involved. But I think I've gone down the rabbit hole of iRacing now. So you know, if I'm not sort of at a level, I feel like it's kind of wrong to now go and jump somewhere else and, you know, do R Factor or do Assetto Corsa and all this kind of thing, because I'm not sort of quick enough yet in iRacing. You know, you see what I mean? So I'd rather sort of focus my efforts to you know, to become a lot better in iRacing. And I think, at least from what I've experienced, the online racing is better on iRacing. I mean, I'd swear by it at this point. But on R Factor, I guess maybe I haven't been experienced enough on it, or I haven't done enough on it to sort of to be that comfortable there. But in terms of preparing for a race, or preparing, you know, sorry, a real life race, I'd maybe use R Factor, because that's what the team has installed. I haven't necessarily used it at home yet, because I haven't set it up properly on my own sim. But yeah, I guess that's the only other time I use another software. But most of the time, I'd say 99% at home, I'm on R Factor. Sorry, I'm on iRacing. So I haven't really branched out yet.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for our chat. I know in a few moments' time, we'll be announcing the tracks for this week's ProSim race, which is on Wednesday evening, I think 8 o'clock CET, so Central European time, and the usual stars from both the sim and the virtual world competing. 2 European tracks, that's all I've been told. Don't know any more than that,
okay.
But hopefully it means that you might know them and have a decent experience around them. And thank you very much for chatting. Great to chat to you. Really interesting chat, in fact. And good luck with everything this coming Wednesday, but also in your career, your real world career. Hopefully you can kick that bat off in 2021.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
Raoul Hyman there, one of the stars of our VCO ProSim series. As I say, Wednesday, 8 o'clock is our next instalment, and there's plenty of other VCO action across all of our social media channels. Remember, the track is a vote, so get yourself onto VCOesports.com and you'll be able to vote for the track that the likes of Romain Grosjean and Raoul will be racing on Wednesday. Until then, hopefully you'll see us, or see me on Wednesday, and otherwise it's another chat show on Monday. Who knows who our guest will be? I never do. Bye-bye.